Good afternoon everybody, and a very warm welcome to Mildenhall and Districts, and my name's Susanna and I live with trains. And today I have a pretty sizable layout update for you. It was a toss up because I've got a few videos that I'm got on the pipeline. One of them is a rolling stock update. I've got a really big rolling stock update, which includes, I think, 3 locomotives, 2 locomotive projects, a wagon, and some other bits and pieces. So there is a big rolling stock update for you, and it was a toss up between doing that video or this video. And I think this video, I think you're going to get more out of, and maybe have a little bit of intrigue for the next video. So why is it such a sizable layout update? It's pretty much because of Goswell Sidings, which I've been working on. And it pretty much means, because of that, that's led on to the fact that pretty much most of the layout has been changed or affected in some sort of way. And the main reason for this is because I bought some ballast for Goswell Sidings. And I bought a bag of Jarvis ballast, and some time ago Charlie over at Chadwick did a video on various gauges of ballast and various ballasts and all the rest of it, and I watched it, and I was also speaking to Paul at my local model shop about ballast, and I was looking to try and see if I could find a cost-effective way of getting ballast, because ballast tends to be quite expensive. So generally speaking, I've been buying Woodland Scenic's ballast generally, but I am very aware and conscious that it's gone up in price. Now this one here, these are both from Paul at my local model shop, has still got a price tag on it of £12.50. This one, however, same thing, same canister from Woodland Scenics, and it was purchased later, is £14.75. So the ballast that's in here is not actually Woodland Scenics. This is the Jarvis stuff. I haven't really tried it, and it was cost effective because it was £13. It cost me £13 for a £7 bag, which basically filled up 2.5 of these. So because I emptied it out, because I had these empty canisters, so because it came in a bag, I didn't want to open it and leave it in a bag and then it starts sort of spilling or leaking or whatever. So I basically filtered it into as many canisters as I needed, and it actually filled up 2.5 of these. So when you look at that, if you say that's going to be 30 quid's worth of ballast, at least, for £13.75 of the Jarvis stuff. The problem is with the Jarvis stuff is it said it was fine, and as I'm about to show you, it isn't. It's pretty coarse. In fact, it's probably like the coarse version of this. So that's the trade-off. I didn't quite realise it, but it does go an extremely long way. And this, I haven't finished ballasting the whole layout, but the remainder that's in here will probably be enough to cover the rest of the layout that needs doing. So that goes to show you how far it's gone, and I'm going to show you how much I've done with this Jarvis ballast. Like I said, it is pretty coarse, although it says fine. So if you look at it and you get a bag of Jarvis, make sure you go for the extra fine. I don't know how much more of a difference, but this is still pretty cool stuff, and like I said, I'll show you right now what it looks like on the layout. So as you can see, I originally started the ballasting at Goswell Sidings because that's why I bought the ballast, and I didn't realise that it's such a big bag that it would probably go quite a long way. So once I'd finished doing Goswell Sidings, I decided to carry on and try, because this was bugging me anyway before, because I got fed up of seeing all the wood underneath. But I got as far as that buffer stop there. That's as far as it goes. I haven't got to the back of the layout yet. And as you can see, it's made it all the way along to here. And I don't know if I can zoom you in. This is probably one of the better places because you can get really close up. But you can see just how coarse it is. It is pretty coarse. And it's so coarse that when you hoover up the excess, it kind of leaves gaps and you can see the baseboard underneath because it doesn't fill it properly. So I'm going to have to go over some areas again with some finer ballast to sort of blend it in a bit better. As it so happens, this bit here around the TMD is actually not too bad. And in fact, all the way up to there is not too bad. I'm really pleased with this area here because it's nice that we've managed to get the ballast down. It hasn't actually been properly tested yet. That's something I needed to do because I've been doing this on and off through the course of the week, like with an hour here and an hour there and all the rest of it, and trying to get it all done so it's sort of finished for the... So I've only just finished it by the end of the weekend. I only finished it, I think it was Thursday, and then obviously the glue had to go off and everything like that, and then I had to go over it. Again, forgive me, that's just me moving my chair. So I had to go over certain areas where the ballast hadn't dried properly and redo it and re-glue some areas. One of the other things I've been doing is I've been doing a lot of my scrap rails that I've got knocking about. I haven't cut them. These are actually just leftover pieces as they are. And I've been going through them with the rust paint, which I have. So it hasn't actually cost me anything because you see a lot of this. I've been watching a lot of cab ride videos where even on the main lines, you still see that there's leftover rails on it waiting to be picked up. So here we had a lot of bare board in the middle and obviously on this corner here. And now it looks so much nicer. I've been getting my static grass applicator out as well, so I've been doing that. And I've also been creating my own tufts. So I've been making my own tufts out of greaseproof paper and my static grass applicator. And you just basically just put some PVA on some greaseproof paper and then just static grass it. And then what you do is you just peel it away off the greaseproof paper, and then you end up with these kind of strips or whatever kind of sizes you want. And like I said, you've got some strips there, and also you can have some big patches here, which I've done. So that's just using greaseproof paper and a static grass applicator. And what it's great for is, I'll tell you what it's really, how this comes into its own, is when you're doing these kind of curves like this, on this area here, the fascia didn't quite bend right into the wood. So there's some slight gaps between the fascia and the board. So if you were to try and sort of either ballast it or anything like that, it would just fall straight through the bottom because there was this gap. And even to static grass it, you wouldn't be able to cover the gap. So you can basically use this as a kind of a bit of a grass mat to hide it, and then go over it with a static grass applicator, and that hides all the gaps and everything, which is what I've done along here on this corner, which you can't see, but it's great. So it was something that I wanted to experiment with. So that was kind of something that I wanted to do. So I've made some of these bits and pieces, and it has been very, very useful. Like I said, I've made all kinds of shapes and sizes, experimented with different lengths, and it has come. And as you can see, I've glued a strip here. Look, there's a strip here that I've just literally just glued on straight on top of the ballast. Something else I bought was from DCC Concepts, was this little isopropanol bottle. Cost me £5, and so I need to use that for another project. Something that arrived from eBay, and this is to do with the rolling stock update, which I will tell you about at some point. But this is come from eBay, and this is a 21 pin decoder with a stay alive, and I'll explain that in the next video. And as we move down here, you can see that it's all been ballasted all the way down to the very end. The only thing that hasn't been ballasted yet is the container siding, so I've got that to do, but I'm going to do that with a different type of ballast. So I'm going to change that one up slightly, but I haven't got around to doing it yet. Whether it gets done this week, I'm not so sure. As you can see down here, we've done some more. And like I said, it's all the way down. So now it's really great because it's like I can't see any bare baseboard now. It's just nice that it's ballasted now completely. And because the ballast has been a bit coarse, it hasn't been sitting in between the sleepers properly. So I've had to pick at it so the rolling stock isn't going to have any of that clunky running when it goes over ballast. So I've tried to clean it up as best as I can. And once I test it properly, if there's any further spots that need cleaning up, I'll do it. And as you can see, there's some more rusty rails just dotted and lined up waiting, because this has been an area that's just been redone. So the premise is that basically they've relaid it and now they've got rid of all the old stuff and they've just basically put some new stuff down. And it's also trying to bring some colour along here, because otherwise it's just too bland and too grey. If you look at over here, right in the corner here, it's quite difficult to see, but you can see that there's a little network rail van and some ballast bags, and I've also static grassed this area. Forgive the containers sitting on top of the building. I just had to move those out of the way. And now I've added this all the way up to Chaston Road Station, so that's kind of blended it in with the ballast that's already there. So now it's all blended all the way through, or ballasted all the way through. So now we move on to Goswell Sidings, and as you can now see, this has been ballasted and I'm really pleased with the results. This looks absolutely fabulous. I'm really pleased. I might be adding some more trees in the background just to blend that down a bit better, so that I might be doing that. As you can see, there's some more sort of old rusty rails that's been hidden and overgrown, and there's some scattered mixed ballast over there which I blended in with the black cinders which I bought, which I think was really cool, because that gives it the really unkept kind of yard look which I'd seen on a video, which again, or DVD, which I will mention to you on my next video, which is the rolling stock update, because it's all linked in together. So again, look out for that. So now we've kind of got this really looking like I wanted it, and it looks really nice. Some more abandoned rail, rusty rail. My shunter's just sitting there because it hasn't got anywhere to really go at the moment, because I can't put it where I would normally put it because of the fact that it is a lift up section, but we'll get to that shortly. As we move down, I've been adding speed signs, which you can sort of see, just one there and there's one there. You can also see that I've brought this, basically this old footbridge that I had, which spanned, and I thought that was quite good, because that could give access for the engineers, say, to walk down towards the signal box. So the overgrowth that's here, I might be removing that. In fact, I probably will do, but I haven't got around to doing that yet. I'd actually forgotten about that, to be truthful. And as you can see, this is kind of like a low relief footbridge on this side. I wanted to try and keep the essence of Goswell Sidings, because it is my favourite area and it still is. And one of the things I really wanted to model is something that you don't see very often on a model railway. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen it on a model railway. It's actually a fixed distance sign, which is that board over there, and there's a speed restriction sign. I haven't got any whistle boards because I wanted to get a whistle board as well, but I've run out of those, so I need to go and get some more of those. And so I wanted to model that, because ultimately the reason why it's 10 is because it's a sharp curve for the shunter, but also because obviously as a reminder to the driver that is the branch line that leads to nowhere, so it's a dead end. So that's why usually you'll find these fixed distance signs at sort of on these branch lines where it's a dead end siding. So that's how it is, and I really wanted to model it, and I think it looks absolutely brilliant. I also added a limited clearance signs. The fixed distance sign, just in case anyone asks, I actually made it myself. I made it myself out of a piece of card, and I got some images from Google Images and basically followed that. And I really like the idea of having that. I'll give you a little one of the new recruits that's arrived on the layout, and that is this recently released Oxford diecast Land Rover Discovery, which I think is great. I really like it. I've always liked these old school Land Rover Discoveries. You still see them about, and they're pretty rugged. A lot of them are rusted, but there's still knocking around a few of them. And as you can see, we still got the South West Trains bus on the top on rail replacement. As we turn the camera around, I'm not sure if I've showed you this already, but basically the fabric came through. So I've now put the fabric on the bottom, so that again hides the door. That kind of neatens things up and blends in nicely with the legs. And the legs are obviously painted blue with the Mildenhall Districts logo in a vertical style as opposed to the horizontal. And I've just left that as a nice blue fascia over there. From this angle, you can now see that this area has also been ballasted. And like I said, you've got the board here that separates this from the main lines from the branch line, as you can probably see right in the far right corner, that you can probably just about see the branch line in the background. But you can now see that this has all been blended in, and this is now ballasted and it looks great. I'm really pleased. I can't do anything too much with this because obviously this is the lift up section, so I can't really give it too much height, which is one of the reasons why I can't put a buffer stop on here. However, that being said, I have seen on some sidings that they don't have a buffer stop, and sometimes they just put a sleeper or a tie, as they call them in America, across the tracks, and that stops that and that acts as a buffer stop. So that's precisely what I've just done here, which is quite clever because, like I said, I don't have the height for a buffer stop when it's in its retracted position. And something else that I've done, and I think I'll try, and I'm going to take you off the camera for this bit, so bear with me a minute. I've finally got around to doing the other side of the bridge. So I've now done that to blend that in, and I'm really pleased with it. It's not quite the same colour, it's a bit lighter than what I would have liked. I would have liked it a bit darker, but the effect is very, very similar to what's on the other side. If I just take you around the other side, that's what it looks like. So it's slightly darker on this side than it is on this side, but essentially it's the same bridge. And obviously you can't see that the branch line, so that's why it's just sort of almost like a treble arch one without the little tiny diddy one on the other side, because you can't see it because that goes off somewhere else. So that I think is really, really nice. And I'm also thinking that you can have a couple of opportunities to do some train spotting from here, and maybe a train spotting opportunity on the footbridge. And you can see the trains come rolling by from there, which I think will be quite nice. Okay, right, so my big project for this weekend, and I'm off the tripod for this, so forgive me for the shadows and because the lighting isn't particularly great, and also for any shaky camera work that you will see. My big project for this weekend has been basically, I've pretty much relayed all of this track here. Pretty much everything in the fiddle yard has been relayed this weekend. Now the reason for this lies here, where this 66 is, because this here is a head shunt. And I did mention this before. Before, when the track used to come in from the main layout, it just used to fan out, and it just used to fan out and go all the way around. But when I laid this fiddle yard in the beginning, I hadn't actually built Arklow Quarry. Now, through building Arklow Quarry, what I wanted to do is to create a run round loop. And also, as I've been running Goswell and the Wagon Works, it's been occurring to me that with all my industries or places, well, I guess it is industries that I have on this layout, I wanted them to be self-contained. So I could play with them and have another train running around, as Charlie would say, a scenic train running around the layout without it interrupting me shunting around in whatever industry I happen to be playing with at the time. However, it wasn't actually possible with Arklow Quarry as the Fiddle yard stood before. As it stands now, it actually works. Because what I've done is through the trackwork reconfiguration at Goswell Sidings, what it has done is released some point work which I can then use here, primarily the double slip that is there. What this has allowed me to do is it's allowed me to bring the train from the quarry, say on this line, and then I can now come into this head shunt which I've now installed. Then the 66 can then run around on this outer line and then pick up the train from the other end and then take it around the layout. And that would not affect the scenic train, because the scenic train could then just be running around, and then when the aggregate train was ready to go into the layout, it could be paths behind or ahead of the next scenic train, as you would in the real life. Now, what you might have noticed is that some of the ties or sleepers are actually painted, and they're all painted in different colours. And there's a reason why they've been painted in different colours, and it's not because of like some sort of MRI standard thing that you can do or whatever, that these are the official colours or anything. These are just paints that I had lying around, but I wanted to make them relatively obvious on the tracks. So the person who's running the yard, including myself, is kind of like a bit of an idiot's guide, if you see what I mean. Because it's kind of a bit like a traffic light system where we've got the red, the green, and the amber or yellow ties, but we've got mixed in a few other colours, but there's a reason for that, which I'll just talk to you about it. So basically, the red ties indicates that you're entering a dead-end siding. You've also got a red one here, which means you're also entering into a dead-end siding. And these dead-end sidings, as you can see, are not always easy to spot, but that dead-end siding corresponds to that dead-end siding over there. We then have the green, and you've got the green and purple, and you've got the green and blue. So the green and amber or purple, green and violet, or the green and purple, basically indicates to me that it's the main running loop on the outer loop. The green and blue corresponds to the inner loop. So that helps me identify it when it comes to the other end of the layout. And I'll come back to the orange bit as well. Now this green and orange, this yellow and orange loop basically is what I'm referring to as the run round loop. So basically when the aggregates train comes here, it will go into the head shunt and it will use this line here, the yellow and orange line, to use that as the run round loop at the other end. Now what it does is basically it helps me at the other end because they're corresponding tracks. So we now see that the orange and yellow for the outer track. So we now know that that track belongs to the track over the other side. So you know it makes life easier to set the points. And you can see that these yellow ones, the yellow one, just the plain yellow ones, there's a few of those. Look, there's one there and there's one there. These are basically looped. These are loops, so that's why they're yellow, because basically they're loops. And then you've got the green and blue, which is the inner main line, and this is the outer main line. So if you look along here, you can then got the inner loop and the outer one. So when the aggregates train is using the outer loop, the scenic train will be running around on the inner loop, and then it will come back here and into the main layout. And then when the aggregates train is ready, it could stop at this signal here, wait for the scenic train to go by if it's on its way, and then be pathed in behind the scenic train when it's ready to go. And it won't be affecting the main line. So that's my thought process of it. So here at Arklow Quarry, we can now run it, that the idea is that the train would hook onto this one with the tail lamp, pull it out, reverse, collect these, the second batch. So you've got 8 wagons. These are Cura scale wagons from Arklow Quarry. And then it will take them, once it's picked them all up, it will take them along here, and into the loop here, the yellow one, all the way down to here, uncouple here, the loco will go into the head shunt where it is right now, then run round on the yellow-orange run round loop, all the way around the outer track, all the way around this outer track, and then back onto the outer loop here, and then basically reverse onto the hoppers that are here, and then it can be ready to go onto the main layout when it is ready. So now I've settled on the track plan and I've done the fiddle yard, and that's now sorted. What I really want to do is basically, just as with the front of the layout, I really want to get rid of this baseboard look. So I mean, obviously I did a bit of undergrowth here, but I want to get it ballasted and finished so it looks really nice. I've also got the that corner piece to do, which I'm going to be buying some hydrocal because I've got some rock molds and I would like to do some wooden scenic rock molds. So I've got the molds, all I need is the hydrocal, and I can get a few made up, and then I can then start blending it in and making this area look a lot nicer than it does. It's been looking a bit tatty for a little while. This side, the quarry side, looks great, but this side really does need working on. The thing being is that as I was halfway through doing this, I got sidetracked by a holiday coming up, and I wanted to use that time to actually do the TMD at the front, which was on the windowsill, and then that led on to the whole rebuild of the front end. So I've never really got back to doing this and finishing this. So I really want to get back to finishing this and start blending this in. So then most of the layout is pretty much got a decent amount of scenery around it, so when there's a cam shot running around, there isn't areas which look a bit rough and ready, but I guess there'll always be a few more bits. So this concludes the end of today's video. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. I hope you've sort of enjoyed a sort of tour inadvertently, and the explanations on my full process. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. My apologies for my late replies to some of the videos at the moment, but I will get back to you all. And thank you so much for watching. Until the next time, I'm Susanna and I live with trains. Bye bye.